think that you can leave the horrible past in your psyche, in your body, in your soul, in your life, then they're winning. And that, to me, is the most powerful thing of all. So if somebody tortured me for 5 years, and now I've carried this thing forward for 10 years, who tortured me the longest? Me. And if you remember the show we did when I spoke about a woman who had been hideously abused, physically and sexually abused, for decades of her life, like 17 and a half years. And ultimately, when I met her, she got what I just said. She got that the person who had been abusing her far longer was herself. And in that moment, she had an epiphany. And in that moment, she began to do the 4 questions of inquiry with me with a new level of commitment and an absolute determination that by 2 days from now, whenever that was, years ago, 2 days hence, she would be done. And I am telling you, the big work was done. The big chunk was removed. And then she had, more to do, of course. But she got color back in her face. She relaxed. She had been very, very tense, as anyone would be. So she started to relax. It was really remarkable. And the hug she gave me was different from when she arrived. Very different.
Oh, that's beautiful, Susan. Well, I know you have a lot of stories, pertaining to this. I know also that there are millions of people who settle for the little love that they really have in their relationships, and I'm interested why they settle.
Well, hopelessness is an extreme example of sadness. When we look at people who are, suicidal, tragically, the most tragic state any of us could ever be in, suicidal thoughts, suicidal action. That's a pervasive hopelessness. Not only feeling sad that their needs can't be met, whatever their needs might be, but also convinced that their needs can ever be met. So if you imagine people who've now had a horrible relationship, it was excruciating, maybe like me, there was a life-threatening component. It's fine if you don't rush into a relationship. It's smart. Obviously, I needed more skills. Obviously, the person who got into that mess couldn't be the same person getting into a new relationship. I had to do the work, which I did, happily. But then you get to that point where you say, okay, what is it now? So everyone has an egoic story. Whatever the story is. I could tell you 50 of mine, but they're not interesting. So there's always a story. Why do you think that you can't have a great relationship? And I've helped women in their 70s have fabulous relationships, and anyone who's in relationship world will tell you that's not possible. But it is possible. I can tell you all about it. I can't tell you their names, but I can tell you all about it. And if you want what you want, and at the end of the show, we'll talk about what you have to do to get what you want. You don't just wake up in the morning and it's not just business as usual. You have to stretch yourself, you have to evolve, but that's how you can get just about anything that you want in life. Do 100% of what works.
Beautiful. So there's hope for all of us. And if you're confused, once again, Susan's the phone call to make. Now, I can see our time is doing really good, right?
Wow, yes.
It's flying.
Fantastic.
So now I know that there's also so many couples that are out there that stay together, and there is no sex or very little sex. Can you explain that to us?
Fred, if you could put the Herman Brain Dominance map up, that would be really helpful. Thank you so much. So there are different reasons why people do everything. A lot of people who are upper left brain, rational, practical, financially focused people don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to get a divorce because they don't want to give up half of their assets. In most states of the United States, you get a divorce, you're giving your partner 50% of what you own together as a family. A lot of people who are upper right brain, the yellow, don't want to do it because they want peace. So they will go for, peace at any price until things get so bad. It's the same thing happened in World War II. There were people who were trying to make peace with Hitler. It didn't work out, but there were people who really believed that they could make peace with Hitler and they could avoid the war because peace at any price. That was the talk. Well, sometimes it works, mostly it doesn't work unless you get lots of skills. The lower right brain, you're never going to find a lower right brain person, a really lower right brain person, who stays in a relationship without sex unless they have somebody else who's not in the marriage. Because a lower right brain person is all about love and connection and touch and joy and all that. And you live in a house where two people are living like housemates, it's excruciatingly painful. It's like, being in a blizzard that never ends. And then the lower left brain, safety, people who are very interested in safety, again, similar to the upper left. So safety is the lower left green. They like to do things in an orderly, organized, safe, planning manner. And those are people who probably would opt for having me as a divorce mediator. So they're safe, they save money. They're safe, nobody's at war with anybody else. It's safe, they're learning how to communicate with each other and communicate with their children. And so those are the different reasons. But you don't have to settle. My message is settling is excruciating. You have a choice. You can learn the skills, go through some awkward phase, whatever it might be, depending on you and your partner, and come out the other side and find a beautiful, joyous relationship. Because a lot of people, they work with me on a divorce, and then the next year we find them a relationship. Or sometimes they're lucky. They're getting a divorce, there's no reason not to, and they already know that perfect person. So which life sounds more satisfying to you, given that you may not live 5,000 times? You might, but there's no guarantee.
Great information once again. My favorite saying is, Susan, you're so highly informative, and it's really true. It's continuous. Now, so Susan, let me ask you this one. What is the danger of a just sex relationship and jealousy?
It's really horrendous how many awful, lethal stories occur around this. In fact, the murder that occurred at UC Santa Barbara many years ago was perpetrated by a guy who was enraged that the girls were having sex with other people and not him, that they were making love to other people and not him, they were interested in other people and not him. And he shot a lot of people that day. And when he wasn't allowed entrance into the sorority, that was it, when he snapped. So people who think that they can just do what they want to do if they're in a committed relationship really need to talk to me. Because as I often say, there are conventions in place because people have been doing a lot of things for the last thousands of years, and people have already learned through trial and error and come up with these conventions of what works. Therefore, don't have so much hubris, so much ego, that you think you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and decide you want to have an extramarital affair and you're going to know how to avoid disaster. Because I guarantee you don't know what I know. I have spent 40 years acquiring this information from other people, a little of it myself, and professionals of all stripes. I'm telling you, you need to know this. You need to know this. You can't take a chance. People have been killed. I wasn't cheating. My husband thought I was or was going to. That's all he needed, and it was almost the end for me. So you have to learn how to handle this. If I didn't have the skills I had then, I don't know if I could be sitting here today. And those weren't enough skills. I kept, obviously continued to learn tons and tons of skills for the last 20 years since that happened.
We're very grateful you're here. And through all of her experiences, that's why she has gained so much knowledge to share with us.
That's right.
Save some time
If I
and
were a
energy.
wallflower, I could never do this.
Now, Susan, what about marriages that end up as, let's say, business arrangements, which I know is very common in Britain and France?
You know, it's cultural, so it's a convention, you know. They are having far more than we do, and certainly India, it's all about that in India. Arranged marriages are always about the property, they're never about love. So you have arranged marriages in most countries, and not the United States, with very few exceptions. You find society marriages. Society marriages, if you look at Town and Country, you know, magazine, it still can be that, and the New York Times, it still can be that. But it's not that forced sense of you must marry this person because we have to keep the property in our caste, as in India, or we have to keep the property in, you know, the royal gift of this estate can't be divided. You've seen Downton Abbey. That's what that's all about. Downton Abbey was all about, we got this from the crown and we're not going to mess it up and we're not going to divide it up. And so everybody has to behave a certain way. And that means that in France and to a slightly lesser extent England, if a couple have been together for a while, it is understood at a certain social stratum that they both have lovers, but nobody knows and nobody talks about it. And everybody's very discreet.
And that's what keeps it going.
That's what keeps the property going, right? It's unfortunate because it doesn't keep love going, it doesn't keep the family going, and it certainly doesn't help those children. But we understand it's a different culture.
Now, aren't there a lot of couples who have affairs because peer pressure tells them that they need to stay together, and they don't even realize that they may be able to stay and actually, this is great, transform the marriage too?
You know, I am offering things that I've not found other people to offer. And I'm never preaching to the choir, with very few exceptions. My dear friends who are sitting in the studio tonight are very, very few exceptions, and Gigi as well. But very few people have a clue. When I say, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg said, love is a combination of needs met. You can get your needs met. You have to have a lot of skills to get your needs met, and first you have to have a lot of skills to pick the partner who can meet your needs. But beyond that, this is really important for you to know. You can transform any relationship as long as one partner masters these skills. I don't mean dips your toe in and learns how to hit a tennis ball against a backboard. No, I mean be able to play in the tournament with somebody who's a decent tennis player and be able to do it for a period of time and have fun doing it. Those are the levels of skills we're talking about. So intermediate expert skills, not mastery, but intermediate to expert. Once you get there, the relationship is unrecognizable. Again, if it was the appropriate partner. If you already knew that your parents fixed you up in, you know, Mumbai in 1943, no. But if it was somebody that you fell madly in love with, and he or she fell madly in love with you, and you were each having a good day, the world hadn't crashed in on either of you for a period of time, then you made the decision to be together as two healthy, happy adults. And then whatever happened, whether it was somebody else, whether it was illness, whether it was financial problems, I can show you how to turn the whole thing around and re-enter a relationship of joy and bliss that when you use these skills can last forever.
That's so encouraging for, I'm sure, many of our viewers. So I know what you're saying, that the pressures from society or from religion aren't effective in saving marriages, and that what you actually teach people is consistent with religious beliefs, correct?
Absolutely. And it's, you know, when all the ministers and rabbis are talking to my clients, and they're telling them what they should do and what they shouldn't do, you can imagine how horrified I am, because I say to my clients, what would you like to do? May I show you how to accomplish it? That's very, very different. And I've worked with people from every single major religion except Baha'i, just because nobody from the Baha'i religion has called. So call if that's you, you know. But it doesn't matter what your belief is. The divine is the divine from where I sit. It doesn't matter at all. What matters is understanding your own needs, which most people do not. Understanding the needs of others, specifically your partner in this case, which most people do not. And having enough language skills to be able to motivate and inspire an entirely different quality of merging, two into one. That lasts a lifetime, not because you're just here and nothing moves. It lasts a lifetime because you're constantly re-energizing and refreshing it.
And everybody out there is looking forward to this. We better go to our clip first.
There is none tonight.
Oh, we don't have a
No.
clip.
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Surprise, you get us for the whole hour.
Oh, great. Well, hey, here we go. More questions. I love it. Here's a complicated question. How do you know when someone really loves and adores you?
You just feel it, don't you? Now, it doesn't mean that means it's going to last. You have no idea. But it's a moment-to-moment thing. It's a moment-to-moment thing. In that moment, you just feel adored. Your brain chemistry changes. Oxytocin again. The same brain chemistry shift as when you have an orgasm. You just feel it. But this is now, has nothing to do with having sex. You could have all your clothes on. You could be walking down the street. You just feel it. And of course, the absence of that, don't go into a panic. It's a question of, how do I regenerate it? What can I do, or what do I stop doing? What can I say, or what do I need to, stop saying? How do I regenerate that experience of love? It's the same in any relationship, a mother and a child, siblings, you and your grandparents, your parents, it's the same thing. How do you regenerate that quality of love so that you feel it and you have what you want, which is to feel it all day, every day, as much as possible, and the other person feels it? Because when you're in that relationship, and I tell you this from my own experience, you can feel when that other person is thinking about you intensely. You can feel it if you've trained yourself. You feel different. It's as if somebody's stirring the bubbles in the champagne glass. You just feel more alive. The grass is greener, the sky is bluer. You're happier to be alive because you are more alive.
Should I get the champagne out of my purse?
And the swizzle stick. Yeah.
Okay, well, now moving forward, how can a young couple, let's say, get in trouble even when they think that they have found the perfect combination of love and lust in their partner?
Oh, it's so difficult to be young and make any proper decision, isn't it? Oh my goodness, it's so hard.
To this day.
Oh my goodness, yes, that's right, that's right. It's just hard to know all the things you need to know. Please call me and I'll explain it to you, I'll talk to you. Please, it's so hard. Why? Because you can only see as far as you can see. There's that, analogy that if I'm your coach, I can climb up the pine tree to like 30 feet above ground, and you're telling me what you're feeling and what's happening, all the rest of it. I'm looking and we go, oh my God, no. How am I going to explain what I see? Because I see things at 30 feet above the earth that this lovely young person can't see on the ground. Which of course is why I love, working with young people too, because those who don't want to do it by trial and error, who don't want to suffer and struggle, are going to get great results much faster. The 9-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 4-year-old, the 7-year-old, the really young children that I've worked with, they needed, 1 or 2 20-minute sessions, or 27 minutes, I think was the longest session at a time for a young person to get everything I had to say. The parents, could have gone on for 2 hours. just a function of brain wiring, just a function of brain chemistry. When you're young, you can learn anything very, very quickly. When you're older, it takes a lot more work.
Reprogramming. Now, let's talk about the older people who really fall for someone, and what are the factors for them to consider actually so that they really get their needs met?
Well, they don't want to shake up their lives. They've usually worked very, very hard to have a life they enjoy. Now the question is, does it take TNT to blast them out of that life that wasn't so fantastic, which is why they were looking for him or her in the first place? So life is a trade-off. So you have to really decide, is your life so comfortable? Well, I say to people, you're not that comfortable. I'm listening to you. You're not that comfortable. You think you're comfortable because you know that you're going to get up and you know what your home is like and you know where the kitchen is and you know all this and you presumably have some money in the bank and all that. But you're not that comfortable because you're telling me how you hate your husband, or you're bored to death with your wife, or your kids don't respect you because of the way your partner speaks to them, or whatever it is. And I say, are you so frightened about mixing it up and generating something new for yourself before it's too late? And that's what separates some of us from others of us. In order to have the best possible life, you have to be willing to let go of what you've got. But don't do it in a precipitous way. Don't march home right now and tell whoever it is that you want a divorce. Don't march home right now and say, I'm moving into the guest room. No. Think about what you want. Talk to me about it. We'll talk about how to motivate and inspire somebody in a peaceful and cooperative way that works for both of you. Because believe me, if your relationship isn't working for you, it is not working for your partner. And if it's not working for you and you're already thinking of what to do about it, or maybe you've already thought about it and taken some steps, whether it's mediation, whether it's legal, whether it's a romance, that's not doing them any favor. So always remember that in order to make a relationship even better, you have to be willing to lose it, because you have to be willing to say the things that need to be said in a peaceful and motivating way. And that's also true about this situation. So you need more skills. Don't try to do this at home, please. But I can show you, demonstrate, explain how you can turn the corner on your relationship. You can transform it into a magnificent relationship compared to what it is now, as long as it started as a true love affair, and as long as neither of you were keeping something from one another. So great love can't be built on lies.
Oh boy, another check-in.
Another show.
Yeah. Now, okay, I have heard this many times, and I'm curious with the factors for people who really don't find love, and why.
Great, because I see we have like a little bit less than 3 minutes, and I wanted to read this.
Oh,
perfect.
Go for it.
I'm going to read both of them. So if you're finding real love and lust in combination, you need these 3 commitments. To stick with that search and not give up until you find it. To do whatever it takes, including learning new skills and improving oneself inside and out forever. Enhancing your moods and your brain chemistry so that you're a joy to be around all the time, in and out of bed. Now, here's the list of people who lack those commitments, never are going to find the same quality of love and passion and lust as that first group. Number 1, they stick with the moods they have and the mood swings they have, which makes it impossible for them to stay committed to a relationship or a person. They believe and stick with the belief that they were a victim in past relationships, and therefore they have no commitment to enhancing themselves. They're still blaming that guy or that girl. And then third, they have an idea that their unique way of being is perfect. And there's no reason at all that they should evolve in any way. Now, I am saying this with a little bit of contempt because I don't want you to do this because it doesn't work, and I hate the idea that 5 years from now you're going to call me and tell me that you watched this show, and believe me, this happens. I watched this show and I thought about having my free session and I didn't, and I'm still with Bob. So, or I'm still with Jane. You know, please, please, at least let's talk about it. I'm not going to force you to do anything.